In this demo, we're going to take a look at dictionary comprehensions. Just like list or set comprehensions, the idea is we want to build a dictionary in a single statement, but allow us to loop through another collection to get the values for that dictionary. Let's start by creating a list that we'll call keys, and we'll make it the first few letters of the alphabet. Move the mouse there. And so we'll stop there at E. And then let's create another list called values. Okay, so now we have two lists. One of the simplest comprehensions we could use to build a dictionary would be to use the zip command to zip these two lists together and then join them together as key value pairs in a dictionary. So I'll call the dictionary D1, and I have to specify not just a single value this time, I have to specify a key value pair. And dictionaries are always key, colon, the value. So whatever the key value name pair are going to be, they're going to be separated by this colon just like that. And then we can specify our for statement. And we'll say for KV, and notice here we're making it essentially a tuple pair. And then we'll pass the keys and values to the zip function. And we'll print D1. Now you can see we have a dictionary where the keys are the letters from the keys list and the values are the numbers from the values list. So this is all made possible by that zip function, which takes independent lists and groups them together into tuples. But we can also use more traditional mathematic statements to build our dictionaries. So I'm going to build a dictionary where we have the keys being the value, whatever it happens to be, X, and then the value is going to be whatever the key is squared. And then we can use a simple for X in range statement. We'll get the first 10. Then we'll print dictionary 2. So as you can see, 0 squared is 0, 1 squared is 1, 2 squared is 4, 3 squared is 9, 4 squared is 16. And you can make this any mathematical function you want. In this case, we're just taking the x and doing x squared. Of course, we could do it with cubes as well. And now the values are the cubed value of the key. I'll just put it back to the square just to make it consistent and understandable, because we've done this example many times using different techniques. Another way we can build a dictionary using a comprehension is to split a sentence by words. So I'm going to create a sentence, and I'll just say this is a test. And I'll create yet another dictionary. And this time I'm going to create the dictionary so that the index of the position of the word is going to be the key, and then the word itself will be the value. So let's start by constructing the for loop first this time. That'll make it obvious what we're going to use for the key value pairs. So let's start with the for. To make it easy, we'll call it index and word. So we'll say index will be the position, and word will actually be the value, the word at the position. So 0 this, 1 is, 2 a, and 3 test. And then we're going to use in, and just like we had the zip function before, we're going to use the enumerate method now, which allows us to take any list and provide the index position and value for each item as a list. So we'll say enumerate text, and we're going to split using a space. Okay, so we take the text, that's this string here, we call the split command. We're going to use a space to split the string, so that's the delimiter, so it'll find this is A and test because these are the three spaces in between. Now that I know I'm going to have index and word as the position and value, we can specify index colon word for building the dictionary. And we can print D3. There it is. Index 0, the word is this. Index 1, the word is, etc. If we already have a dictionary, we can build a dictionary from a dictionary. So we've built one from a list, we've built one just using a loop through a range, and we've looped through an enumeration of a list. So now let's start with the dictionary. Okay, and our dictionary, I think we could just use the dictionary we had before, which was D1. So let's just say D4 is equal to D1, and let's just make sure D4 is the list we're looking for. Okay, great. So we have basically a duplicate dictionary here. Now let's go ahead and loop through the dictionary we already have and multiply those values by 2. So instead of being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it should be 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So this dictionary we'll call double D4 since we're going to double all the values in there. And let's just say our key values are going to be K and V, because we're going to say for KV in D4.items. Now, if you recall, the items method of a dictionary returns the tuple pairs, basically the key value pairs for every item in the dictionary. So one at a time, we're going to get A and 1, B and 2, etc. And we're going to place each of those tuple pairs into K and V, these arbitrary variables I picked. You can name them key and value as well. It doesn't matter what you call them. And I'm simply going to use the K and V while creating the new dictionary. Now when I print this, you'll see nothing has changed. So I'll just do another print command because I'm just passing it straight through. So right now the dictionaries will be identical. But what I want to do is take the key, leave it alone, so A is still A, and I'm going to take value and I'll multiply that by 2. Then when I run it, now you can see it's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Now you could also use the trick where strings, if you multiply by 2, basically doubles the length of the string using the same character, in this case twice. So when I run this, now the key will be AA2, BB4, CC6. That's just a neat little string trick where if you take a string and multiply it by a value, it just multiplies whatever's in the string that many times. So a lot of times, especially when I'm working in more of a terminal environment where I'm printing a bunch of stuff out and I want to separate them, what I tend to do is something like this, where I'll take an equal sign and multiply it by like 40. And then when I print that, you can see it makes a nice little delimiter here. So that way you can separate your individual outputs. So that's just a neat little trick. You may want to retain that for later use. So we can use an existing dictionary to loop through it to create a new dictionary using a dictionary comprehension. And just like with other types of comprehensions, we can use conditionals as well. So we can have a filter or a test to only add specific values to our dictionary. Let's go ahead and create a new list. We'll call it numbers, and it'll be 0 through 9. And then we're going to create a new dictionary. And I'm going to demonstrate doing it the iteration way by using a for loop, and then how simple it becomes if you use a comprehension. So we'll say this is the new dictionary, so it'll be blank. We'll say for n in numbers, if n modulus 2 equals 0, so if it's an even number, then we're going to append a value into the dictionary saying n will be the key and n squared is going to be the result or the value for that key. And let's print the new dict 4. You can see here only the even numbers are in here, 0 being even as far as computers are concerned. So 0 and then 2 and 4, 416, 636, and 864. Notice none of the odd indices are here. Now, how could we do this using a comprehension in a much shorter manner? Well, let's go ahead and construct the for first, because sometimes that's the easiest way to construct a dictionary comprehension, because you're not necessarily sure what you're going to use as your key value pairs. So we'll say for n in numbers. And now, remember, we have to filter out all of the odd numbers. The good news is I can just copy this exact if statement and throw it at the end here. So for n in numbers, only if n modulus 2 is equal to 0. Since I know n is going to be my looping variable, I'm going to make that the key, and I'll make the value n squared. Now I can print this new dictionary. And you can see I get the identical results, but with far less code. Now, comprehensions of any type are very powerful, but the more complex they get, maybe the less useful they are because they become less manageable. And one thing you want in your code is to be able to manage it downstream. So if you come back to this code years later, you want it to be understandable to the point where you can make modifications without having to spend hours and hours relearning what you already did. If it helps, you could always put a comment next to your comprehension if it is very complex, but other than that, they should be self-readable, or they should be self-documenting. In other words, you can look at the code and say, oh, this is exactly what this is supposed to do. Obviously, you have to be familiar with the syntax. So with a dictionary comprehension, the value you're going to insert is always going to be a pair. It's going to be a key and the value for that key. And as you know, in a dictionary, the key can't be repeated. You can only have one value for a given key. Then you're going to have your loop statement, typically here. It's going to be for your loop. So it's going to be n in numbers. And then if you have any conditionals, it would be here.